Hello and welcome to this recording of our live event that happened on August 2nd, talking about blockchain security and audits and forensic. At our in real life event, we had 3 amazing speakers join us and we live streamed the event, and we're going to show you that recording in just a moment. We had Laurene from Omniscia, which is a smart contract auditing firm. We had Jock from Hashlock, which is also a blockchain cybersecurity firm specializing in smart contract auditing. And then Graham, who is a crypto forensic advisor at Chain Analysis. So there's a lot of good nuggets in this recording. We hope that you're going to enjoy it. But before we jump into the recording of the live stream, just a quick little note about myself. My name is Danielle Marie, and I'm a Web3 educator and community builder. I am super passionate about blockchain and Web3 education, and I am the head trainer at TAFE Queensland, where I deliver the Diploma of Applied Blockchain. I'm also the founder of She's Blockchain Savvy, which has free crypto and blockchain courses, and I am one of the founding members of All Things Blockchain, which is the nonprofit association where we deliver free educational and networking events. We host our monthly events every month in Brisbane at our headquarters in Innovate, and we also have a series of online events. So if you're not already a member and you've come across this video online somehow, I'd recommend that you go to Meetup and sign up at All Things Blockchain so you get notifications of our events. And anybody that is interested in the blockchain or Web3 ecosystem and education, please reach out to me, Danielle Marie, on LinkedIn. And lastly, before we jump into this video, I've recently launched Women in Digital Economy with some of my founding ATB members. So anyone that is interested in finding out how we can inspire and educate more women to enter in this space, go and check out Women in Digital Economy. So without further ado, let's jump into the live recording of this amazing event.
Sorry. And this is because, in most cases, once smart contracts are deployed, they can be changed. There are a few exceptions to this, but this is the sort of general rule. So yeah, this is where we come in. But let me just bring the... Matt, the clicker's not working for me. Yeah. Oh, thanks. Yeah. So a little bit about us, Omniscia. So we were founded in early 2021 by Web3 veterans. And our mission is to raise the standards of Web3 security. And we basically do that by finding bugs where other audit firms don't. We find bugs in about 70% of the code base that we audit that have already been audited by other firms. And this is because our team of engineers is very small, but extremely experienced. All of our engineers have been doing this since it's been a thing. They've all been, auditing and building complex decentralized protocol for at least 6 years. They've all audited all the major protocols out there. One of our lead engineer recently identified the only finding in a Code for Arena OpenSea contest, so we're pretty proud of that. And yeah, in 2 years, we've audited over 310 projects, including, L'Oreal's NFT collection. We've also worked with the biggest luxury brand in the world, which I won't name. And we've also worked with some of the major ecosystem players in the Web3 space, such as Ava Labs, Gnosis, Polygon, etc. But enough about that. Matt, would you like? I should have. Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, thanks. So this is our smart contract audit process, but instead of going through this slide, I will actually share a report that we recently delivered for one of our clients and walk you through that instead, because that will give you more context. So hold on, I'm just waiting for the share the screen to, yeah. Yeah, it's saying, yeah. your screen share is loading. But yeah, this is a report that we delivered for MISO Finance. And the reason I want to walk you through it is because one of the main things that we recommend doing when wanting to engage with a smart contract auditor is to look at recent reports. And this is because in the blockchain security space, over the past couple of years, a lot of the audit firms have scaled at the expense of quality. And they've sort of just hired very junior Solidity engineers who just don't have the required experience to conduct smart contract audits to a high standard. And so, the teams that you're, the team may have changed if you look at an older report. So always check recent reports. So yeah, this is sort of the landing page. So MISO Finance, for a bit of context, is they explore a novel lending and borrowing system, building zero liquidation loans. And as you can see on the left-hand side, and I'll go through each of the section, but basically the first thing we do when we start an audit is to compile the code, then we proceed to static analysis, then manual review. And then after that, our engineers draft up a preliminary report, which highlights all the issues that we've found, categorized by order of severity, ranging from informational all the way up to critical. And then the team then has to remediate the issues. And then they sort of provide us with a revised commit hash. And then after that, we conduct a full re-audit of the code base to ensure that no new bugs have been introduced as part of the remediation process, and that all the fixes have been made in accordance with security best practices. We provide web-based reports, and I think we're one of the only firms to do that, which, our reports are also pretty unique, and they include features that enable engineers to expedite remediations. So it's pretty, just makes the process very smooth. Yeah. So anyway, let's get started on this. So for MISO Finance, so we went through their code base, line by line over several iterations. This is the audit overview. We basically identified a number of concerns, including insufficient edge case handling. We also found that a yield farming strategy called Alpha Homora V2 was found to work well, even with unusual trading pairs. We also found that the compartments that integrate with other DeFi protocols worked as expected, except one issue that was found around the curve finance integration, but that was remediated very promptly. So this is the post-audit conclusion. So once we've sort of re-audited the whole code base, and we found that all the issues were fixed. And I'll go through, the audit synopsis. As you can see, we identified 3 major issues and a number of medium, minor, and quite a lot of informational issues as well. And this is a perfect example of our team identifying, as you can see, a number of major issues and gas saving optimization opportunities in a code base that had already been thoroughly audited by a pretty notable Web3 security firm out there called Trail of Bits, which is widely considered to be, like one of the top audit firms out there. So this is the first section, and then moving on to so the first stage of the audit process, which is the compilation. So essentially, MISO Finance uses Hardchat to compile their contracts. So we compiled their code base using Hardchat, and we found that there was no error. And basically, what this means is that the contracts are syntactically correct, and this just gives us confidence to further analyze the contracts for security issues. Then our engineers moved on to the static analysis part of the audit. And this is basically where our engineers conduct an automated scan of the contracts using automated tools such as Slither, Echidna, or even our own proprietary tools. And yeah, this is useful to pick up sort of simple issues and common attack vectors. And as you can see, we identified 60 potential issues, but 38 were then found to be false positives or negligible. And the rest were, grouped and they were all sort of informational and minor. So this is a useful stage, as you can see, but at the same time, it's good to complement the manual review, but it just cannot replace a manual review by a skilled engineer. And this is for a different number of reasons. The first one being that these tools, so if there's like a logic error within the code, the tools just don't work as they should. They're publicly available, so anyone can use them. And also, they just don't pick up on all the major vulnerabilities out there. So the core part of the audit is the manual review of the code by a skilled engineer. And yeah, this entails a skilled white hat hacker going through the code line by line, looking out for, uncommon attack vectors, edge cases, and things that just can't be picked up by automated tools. The engineers essentially dive deep into the code, into the protocol's logic, their developers' logic, and the different perspective of all the actors within the protocol's ecosystem to break the code. They take the contracts apart, and yeah, they just essentially just break the code. And yeah, this is a step that is often overlooked, unfortunately, by a lot of audit firms out there that just don't have the skill set in-house. So yeah, as you can see, we sort of, because it was a novel protocol, extra care was taken. And we validated that all the fund flows happened according to specification. We found a number of edge cases that could have had severe ramifications, but that were remediated promptly by the MISO finance team. We looked out for obviously edge cases and uncommon attack vectors, but also common attack vectors such as reentrancy, logic flaws, math errors, etc. And we identified during the manual review of the code base, we identified 57 findings. And 26 of those were directly related to the security of the system. And as you can see, they're all sort of categorized by order of severity, and there's 3 major. And then the code style. So during the manual review, we identified 31 optimizations. So these are basically gas-saving recommendations that we provide in our reports. And so they help our clients to essentially just minimize their gas footprint and optimize their contract, just make their contracts more efficient. And while this is not strictly related to security, it's very helpful to sort of follow best practice in terms of having clear and efficient Solidity code. And it really helps with, when you have thousands of transactions, gas costs can really add up. And also, if you have inefficient code, it can also increase drastically your attack surface. So, it is also a risk. So it is very good practice to have efficient contracts. So as you can see, yeah, we've identified quite a few opportunities there too. So yeah, then moving on to obviously each of the findings, but I won't go through these. I'll just show you an example. Yeah, so this is, one of the findings for this as part of the static analyzing stage. As you can see, we just describe it. There's an example, recommendation, and alleviation. And we do this for each finding, including all the findings, you know, for the manual review as well. I'll just, you can see it's pretty exhaustive. But yeah, I won't take you through all of them. But feel free to check out some of our reports that are on our website, because we have a lot of them on our website. But yeah, this is pretty much it. Yeah, this is just the sort of finding types section where we categorize some of the findings, you know, just to help us being very systematic in the way that we review the code. Yeah, this is pretty much it for the report. Yeah, so I'll stop sharing. Thanks. And yeah, so we can move on to the next slide. Yeah. But yeah, this is me. Thank you. I'll just wrap up. Yeah, get in touch if you want to have a chat or connect. Yeah, thank you.
Well done. Well, that was awesome. Definitely keep an eye on Omniscia. And we're going to talk here from another smart contract auditing firm called Hashlock next. We might get the guys to come up and swap devices here. I'll just carefully do that. Is that Lolo? Okay. This is Jock. Hey, Chris.
G'day everyone, I'm Jock, co-founder and director of Hashlock. And today we're, believe it or not, also going to talk to you about smart contract auditing. So a little bit about us. We're Australia's first fully independent smart contract auditing firm, meaning we don't offer other services that don't relate to blockchain cybersecurity. Here's some of our projects that we've worked on. And apologies if your project isn't on there, it's probably being worked on at the moment. However, yeah, there's just some of the ones that we've worked on so far. Some really cool projects, especially out of Australia as well. And we're a part of all of the sort of leading organizations within Australia, like Blockchain Australia. We're also a part of the New South Wales Data, Digital and AI Task Force, as well as FinTech Australia. And we're backed by SBM, which is a creative tech firm based in Melbourne. So some statistics. This year alone, as far as I'm aware, $3 billion worth of DeFi hacks have occurred, and we're not finished with the year so far. There's a reason why smart contract auditing exists. It's because security, when it comes to immutable code, is paramount. So what is the process of a smart contract audit? Lolo from Omniscia explained very well the process. And generally, with a lot of smart contract auditing firms, it does remain somewhat the same. However, the problem is that there is no clearly defined process, and there's no standard when it comes to smart contract auditing. And this is why you need to heavily rely on the reputation of the smart contract auditing firm that you wish to pursue. But a bit about what we do. We like to take a more collaborative approach. So most of our team are sourced through bug bounties and are leaders on these bug bounties like Code4Arena, Immunify, and Sherlock. And so we source the best talent that's in the industry from these bug bounty platforms, and we give them the ability to essentially come on our team at Hashlock. And because they already have this verifiable on-chain proof that they can find these critical and high vulnerabilities within these DeFi platforms and protocols, we can ensure that people are getting the best when it comes to security for their project. So blockchain cybersecurity is a multifaceted beast. Smart contract auditing isn't the only thing that you should do. It's quite a static deliverable when it comes to blockchain cybersecurity. So we also offer penetration testing. We can host and manage bug bounty platforms, as well as building on-chain monitoring tools and bots, and help with private key security. We also run Trusted Web3, which is a non-for-profit blockchain cybersecurity platform where you can look at the latest industry news coming to blockchain cybersecurity, as well as reach out to verified providers who have a secure mindset when it comes to building blockchain projects. There's just some of the screenshots of the site. But now onto the fun stuff. I wanted to sort of quickly run through a bit what it is that we do. And instead of telling you about it, why don't we show you? So I'd like to introduce Chris, who's one of the lead security researchers over at HashLock, and he's going to run through a live hack.
Get set up. All good. So for the example I wanted to discuss today is a vulnerability that's usually rated between low to medium on bug bounty platforms. But if certain conditions are met and you as a protocol owner are unlucky, then it can be extremely catastrophic. This vulnerability is known as a storage collision. So state variables and smart contracts are used to store data on chain and basically act similarly to global variables in object-oriented programming. So storage collisions occur when admins upgrade the implementation of a contract, and these storage variables are overriding the previous address. And this occurs when there is no storage gap in the implementation. So today I'm going to be hacking a protocol called Audit. And Audit was a decentralized music streaming platform which allows users to publish and listen to music without paying a subscription fee. This is how the protocol can be exploited. So there was a storage collision between the proxy admin address and the initializing variable. And because the proxy admin address ended in OXAC, this was evaluated as a truthy value. And because initializing was always set to true, we were able to bypass this check here. And the purpose of the initializer is to set up the contract similarly to a constructor, but this should only be able to be called once. And me as a malicious hacker, because I can continuously call the initialization function, this can allow me to override the governance address and replace it with a malicious contract, which can result in elevated privileges such as set governance and set claims manager address here in the staking contract, which will allow me to essentially rug the protocol and take funds straight from the protocol. This attack resulted in 18 million audio tokens, which is roughly equivalent to about $6 million US. So by reinitializing the contract, we're basically able to steal these funds. These funds can be swapped for ETH. The funds can be swapped to ETH and then laundered through, these malicious actors laundered the money through Tornado Cash. And because the bug library touches so many areas of this protocol, there were actually multiple ways to enter to actually exploit the bug. The way the malicious actors did it when the attack occurred was they overrode the governance address and basically created a malicious proposal. And this proposal passed with flying colors, which then allowed them to transfer those 18 million audio tokens from the treasury into the attacker's wallet. But for this example, we're going to be going through the staking contract. This example is forked from the live mainnet at the block number at which it occurred, which was 5201700, and we'll show that the attacker's balance was 0 before the contract was exploited, and 19 million audio tokens after it was exploited. So that example is just one of many, in contrast to Web2 security, where millions of dollars can leave the front door in just a matter of seconds. And thank you very much for listening. I'll pass it back to Jock for the closing.
Thanks, Chris. That was cool. Don't worry, we'll just reiterate that we didn't actually just commit a cybercrime then. This is forked code, and I promise when it happened, it wasn't Hashlock. So, but essentially, these vulnerabilities, they would have been flagged as low to medium, but in conjunction together, this created like a massive exploit, which is why essentially blockchain cybersecurity and smart contract auditing is so important, because like Audius, this can happen to any of us trying to build something on chain. That's why you should seek out a reputable smart contract auditing firm that has a focus on manual review and manual line-by-line analysis. And yeah, hope everyone enjoyed here and at home, and thanks so much.
Well done. That was snappy and but an insightful view into the world in which these guys spend their time. So thank you for that. That was good. Next up, we have Graham Peace, cybersecurity specialist, and hasn't got his title on there. What's your new title? Crypto forensics advisor at Chainalysis, one of the world's leading firms in terms of what I call macro crypto analysis. I'm not even sure that's a term. We've just got the chat coming up there on the top of the screen, but that's okay. That's okay. It's just to show that it's all real. And we are indeed Zooming this call. We've got about, I think, 10 or 15 joining us there from around the country. So thank you to everyone online as well. And without further ado, it is Graham Peace from Chainalysis. Take it away, Graham.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Got to admit, it's a hard act to follow those two presentations, but I'm going to give it a go. So, yeah, as Matt said, my name is Graham Pease. I work for Chainalysis. So, I guess the real question is kind of clicky thing, not clicking. Beautiful. Yeah. Nope, we're going the wrong way. Let's go forward. Cool. Yeah, so Chainalysis, who are we? What do we do? I've got to admit, the last two presentations make it a bit hard to follow because that seemed really exciting to me. But nonetheless, so Chainalysis, we're a solutions-oriented company. So we're a global multinational company. We focus on bringing trust to blockchain. So we do that through a range of different services. We do that through our data, through our service provision, through education, and through our products. At the center of everything we do at Chainalysis is our blockchain knowledge graph. And I guess you'd say that that's probably the product that most people know our company for. That being said, there is a range of services that we do offer. All right, so at Chainalysis, our goal is to support companies at every step in their journey. So it's not just about taking our blockchain data and making it human readable. It's also about understanding the landscape, resolving the situation, interpreting the data, and scaling. We do that through a range of different product offerings. So we have understanding the landscape with education. So a large part of my role at Chainalysis is to deliver training. So if you're ever a Chainalysis customer and you're doing any of our training products, you'll find that if you're on an APAC call that as a trainer based here in Australia, I'll be one of the people delivering that product. So I'm one of about 100 people in that training team around the world. We develop training products, not just for certifications, but also for a range of different topics, anything from sort of 5 minutes to a couple of hours. Some of them are available free to anyone on the internet if you just go to academy.chainalysis.com, and others are limited to our customers. We also have applications. That's probably what we're most well known for. We also have a range of different solutions that will help you interpret the information that come from our applications. And we have a range of different services and data solutions that can help companies scale. So like I said, big part of my role day to day is running training sessions. So my background before I joined Chainalysis, I spent 20 years with the Queensland Police. And about 15 of those was as an investigator in some form of online crime, whether it's online child abuse, counterterrorism, or cybercrime. So that's my background. You'll find most of the training team at Chainalysis have either a public sector or private sector background. So they come from other law enforcement agencies around the world, or they come from private sector. So they've worked in various organizations like exchanges, etc. Like we said, our training is unique in the ecosystem because it is all offered face-to-face. So you can do on demand, you can access it at your whim, but you can also sign up and have a face-to-face training with live trainers. I'll move forward. We've had over 15,000 certifications issued so far. I'm very proud of our certification program. It's been so successful, in fact, that some of you may have noticed that some of the job applications you now see on LinkedIn are calling for Chainalysis certifications for certain employers. So human readable and intuitive. So at the core of what we do is our knowledge graph. That comes through in a range of different product offerings that people most likely to interact with if they're customers of Chainalysis. So everything from know your transaction and address screening for exchanges and other segments of the ecosystem so they can properly understand and assess and deal with their risk. All the way through to our investigations tools like Reactor, you can see up there on the right, and some mobile field app for some of our public sector employees to be able to go out with law enforcement agencies and be able to access data in the field to make reasoned assessments on the side of the road. All right, so we also have a range of different services and data solutions. Like it says there, over 120 experts across a range of different disciplines scattered all over the world. Chainalysis is about a company of around about 1,000 people at this point, scattered across the entire globe. So we've got obviously an Australian footprint here between Brisbane, like myself, all the way down through Sydney and Melbourne. We've got Singapore, Japan, Korea, all through Europe and North and South America. One jump too far. Yeah, so as I said, we've also got a range of services that we provide to our customers. So everything from end-to-end investigation. So that's what we call our investigations and special progress section. So we assist both private and public sector customers with investigations where there's a need. We do case triage. We offer prosecutorial support. So we have a segment of the company that assists primarily government organizations in prosecuting cases. Crypto asset recovery. We also have policy advisory. So we have a policy section that assists in developing policy for regulators and for government. Lead generation. We have curated data sets that we offer to certain customer groups. We also have enhanced due diligence and many, many more. So we don't do smart contract audits though. But yeah, a range of other stuff. And I guess the last point that I wanted to touch on was some of the other stuff that we do quite publicly for the ecosystem. So some of our big reports into the ecosystem, like our crypto crime report that we put out every year. I couldn't possibly go through the entire thing here today in 15 minutes. But the big takeaway for it is the 0.24% there on the right-hand side. So that's 0.24% of the crypto ecosystem at the moment is something to do with an illicit activity. So the big takeaway from that obviously is that, as most of the people in this room would know, and I think as most of the people listening would know, it's an extremely small, less than 1% of our ecosystem is involved in illicit activity. And part of the reason why that graph is important, part of the reason we put those reports out publicly is because we want to give the world confidence in the ecosystem. We have access to the data, we see what's going on chain, we have the ability to interpret it. And we put out reports like this so that people can have a very clear and defined understanding of what's going on. Yep, just some key facts and figures there. So $11 billion US in assets recovered with the assistance of Chainalysis. So that's what, when we're talking about assets recovered there, we're not really primarily talking about civil asset recovery. We're primarily talking about some form of criminal investigation assisted activity. So whether that's a hack of an exchange or something like that, but engaging with our law enforcement partners and working with them to assist them in arranging that that financial recovery. Like I said, 15,000 training credits and over 1,000 business organizations using Chainalysis to date. The last graph I've got there is a very, very recent one. So that one only came out a few weeks ago. So that's from our mid-year crime report update. So this is up to the end of June 2023. So we're only looking at about a month old data there. Key takeaway from this, and the reason I threw this one in here is because a lot was talked about at Blockchain Australia Week, for those of you who paid attention, about the criminal landscape. What we're looking at here is a graph that shows us the net reduction in the first 6 months of this year for inflows to illicit addresses by crypto crime category. So through to the end of June, we're seeing about $5.2 billion less than last year. So why is that? That's because of a range of different things that are going on in the ecosystem. If you look at all the different crime classes here, from hacks on the right or the ransomware on the, hacks on the left, ransomware on the right, the only one with a slight uptick is ransomware. And that is because of organizations like the two that preceded me here, doing smart code audits, smart contract audits, and reducing the opportunity for hacks. It's also to do with a range of other things that are going on in our ecosystem, a range of different applications of our data, a range of different solutions being brought to bear by all of the actors in our ecosystem to make the entire ecosystem safer. So big takeaway there, $5.2 billion less in the first 6 months this year. And that was pretty much where I was going to sum up and hand back to Matt, because I believe the next part we're having some conversation, which will be more fun.
Thank you, Graham. That was awesome. Round of applause for Graham, please. That was absolutely fantastic. Yeah, a couple of QR codes, which Graham was authorized by management to bring to you. So thank you, Chainalysis, for that. And it is a valid question. One of our people on the call, actually on the Zoom call, asked, can we share these slides? Now, Graham, you pointed out that one website. Is that the best place to find out some of this stuff that is, publicly available? Yeah, so we might see if we can publicize that as part of the wrap up of tonight's event as well. But before we get to talking about next month's events, we were going to have a bit of a Q&A, and I wanted to kick it off by one of my original ideas, or our ideas when we came up with this night, was to sort of, I guess, we're a lot of fanboys and girls in this room of the tech, I'm assuming, probably 100% of us really are wanting to believe that this tech will succeed. And I think some of the mainstream commentary perhaps in the last 24 months or so, 18 months, has been perhaps a little bit unfair. But then when you think about Tornado Cash, Mixer, and some of the stuff that went down there, if I was an authority in the US looking at that and I realized what could be done, while we think it's hella cool tech, if you're deliberately obfuscating the entry point and the exit point of some funds that are running through a mixer, a TradFi person is going to look at that and go, oh, hey, what's going on there, guys? Like, hang on, we want to play in that pen too, or, what are you doing that for? So I'm bringing that up only because I want to highlight the fact that I think the existence of firms like these and others such as TRM Labs are giving us the opportunity to say to mainstream, whatever mainstream is, but the doubters perhaps, that look, we do have the capability to self-audit, certainly on public chain. And I know Graham and I have talked about this, the debate between private permission versus public. So I just wanted to kick off, get your minds thinking about that, perhaps more macro view before we take any questions. And I just wanted to put that, little stimulus out there. But some of the things I'd originally wanted to talk about were, do we think this does indeed sort of engender more confidence in the industry? But happy to take other questions from the audience. So Danielle's going to do the roaming mic thing. Anyone who wants to ask, we've got Rex straight off the bat. Rex all the way from the Sunshine Coast. Thank you, Rex.
Oh, it's probably for Graham. So I got a text message today from Ledger. Dear Ledger customer, your seed phrase has been used in Singapore. If this was hot, please call 1-800.
Phishing scam.
Please respond. I'm not going to respond, but a lot of people.
I was in Graham to respond, not you.
Yeah, a lot of people.
No, you do it.
Not in our industry, we knew it was going to get mad.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, the point you're hitting on there from my perspective is pretty spot on. It's about education, right? There's a lot of people in the industry who don't share the knowledge of some of our experts. I think that education is the key definer there. Ultimately, scams have been around since a long time before crypto came on the scene. And the only thing that's changed is it's opened up another opportunity for people to engage in that stuff. Criminals are early adopters, they adapt all the time. The only advantage we've got is educating people. That's why we put out public reports, that's why we have public education available, because we're supporting people in the ecosystem.
Anyone else got another question? Well, while we're waiting, one of my favorite comments from the blockchain week was that it's not a technology problem; it's a people problem when we're thinking about the crimes that are happening in the crypto space. All right, any other questions? Oh, we got one over here from Huxley.
Yeah, maybe more towards chain analysis again, but yeah. But yeah, how many times do you think this is more a case of, like maybe what Danielle was saying, more a case of social engineering than it is actually the sort of how many situations do you see where social engineering in particular is draining a lot of funds? And do you think that's a threat for the industry sort of going forward? So
What, moreover than them actually being able to compromise an actual ledger from hacking it? Is that what you mean?
yeah,
Yeah, look, I think I'd say that my comment on that would probably be a little bit more anecdotal, but I would say that when you look at the sheer numbers, when you look at the macro level, you look at the big scale, you read things like the scam report from the ACCC that our government puts out here in Australia. Most of those people, and certainly my experience when I was in policing, most of the people being scammed, the victims of those things, it was a human problem, it wasn't a technology problem. There certainly is some technology problems, which is why my friends up here all exist. I think I'd probably pass over to them and say maybe the second half of that question around how often do you find faults in the contracts that you're asked to audit, given that they're in that space. That's probably, if I can lean on them for that.
In staging code all the time.
Yeah, and I guess I said at our blockchain week as well, I trust code more than I do humans. So something to watch out for is the owner executable functions within smart contracts, where humans still have that, interaction and can still play around with the functionality of these contracts. So that's another thing that we have to look at and declare as well, to ensure that the public knows that, hey, this isn't just left to the automation of a smart contract, and there can still be some sort of human fiddlery around it.
Yeah, we find issues in every single contract that we look at. Yeah, pretty much. So, and a lot of them, as you've seen from our reports, not just, one or two. And in fact, I would be wary of some, and I'm sure you agree as well, that, if a smart contract audit firm finds like one or two issues in your contract, it's probably not a great sign, because, yeah.
Go for a firm that focuses on manual analysis. There's unfortunately firms out there who will just run it through the automated tools that are freeware to everyone, print out a nice title page and call it a day. You don't want that.
Oh, the more the better, obviously. We at least two, if you have the budget, 2 or 3 is better. We worked with some of the protocols that they are really security focused, and have at least 4 audit reports from different firms. Yeah, I mean, it all depends on your budget. If you get 1, that's better than nothing. But I would say, at 2 or 3 is ideal, if you can afford it. Yeah.
I have a question. So when you do your smart audit reports and you find all of these faults, does that basically mean the developers are shit? So like, do we fire the developers, or like, what is, no offense anyone, but I'm just wondering, like, if you find all these faults, what does that mean? Does that mean, or how do we determine, because what I've been told before is that if you hire a developer and you're a new startup and you hire the developer, how do you know that they're not putting things into your code? And that's why we go to these smart auditors. But how are we actually determining? It's like, I don't know if the mechanic's done a good job on my car. So is that an indication if there's all these vulnerabilities that you find on the quality of the developer?
Sometimes, but I'd like to cut the developers a little bit of a break and say that generally, like, you can have the best developers in the world. If they are actually creating these contracts, they haven't, unless they're acting as a bad actor, purposefully, seen this vulnerability. They're more focused on the utility and the functionality of the contract. Like, does it work? Not so much, is it secure? So that's why you need to source out a team who has that security focused mindset that is going to go in and find these vulnerabilities and exploits.
Totally. Yeah, and as Jock was saying, like, there's a big difference between being a developer and being an auditor. It's just a different mindset. So a developer is a builder. They just build. It's like building a house. I always give this example, but it's a good one. You don't hire. If you want to build a house, you hire a builder, someone who can put, lay one brick on top of each other, etc. But if you want to break into a house, it's a completely different skill set. You'll be looking for someone who, can bypass the security system, knows where the owner might hide the keys, all this stuff. So it's just a different skill set. So it doesn't necessarily mean they're shit. It just means it's just not their job. They're not thinking about security. They're thinking about building.
So whose job is it to be thinking about security while they're developing the smart contracts?
If you're a really good developer, you should.
What is it, a blockchain architect? Is it the CTO? Like, whose role is it to actually be? I know that you're coming in to make sure.
Yeah.
But like, as the development phase, whose role is it?
Yeah, ideally they should have security in mind while building, but then that's why you have an auditor as well.
All right, we'll take a couple more questions.
And that's why I guess we have Trust Web3 as well. So we've almost pre-vetted. Yeah. So we've pre-vetted people that we've seen their code already from a third party. And, we can sort of say, hey, these people are really good at building. Obviously, if you, just grab a random smart contract developer from Fiverr, you're going to have a much different experience.
I forgot my question now. No. So in other programming language, Java, C#, there's accepted best practices for disposal of objects, etc., and so on. On a two-pronged commentary, as Solidity doesn't have a particularly strong check-in code base within any of the repositories, we've got tools like Copilot from GitHub and a variety of others coming into play. Do you believe that as time goes by, those types of tools will end up producing better code for smart contracts and in that space? And I had another bit and I've forgotten what that was, but I'll leave it at that bit.
So these tools are basically written with artificial intelligence technology, and it really depends what kind of code this model was sort of trained on. If you've got some like really buggy code and that's been used to train that model, then these bugs are probably going to be introduced into these automated code writing software. But if you're training it with quality code, then it'll probably spit out quality code as well. Yeah.
All right, we're going to take two last quick questions. I'm coming to you. Don't worry, I've got two. You're going to be the last one, and we're just going to hand it to Rachel.
Mine's a super quick one. It's just, I'm curious about insurance in this kind of industry. Where does the final responsibility lie and at what stage? And do you think that governments are going to come in and basically mandate or regulate where you can get certificates from?
Yeah, well, I guess Treasury had the token mapping submission, and we submitted our own paper alongside Blockchain Australia and FinTech Australia as well. We sort of called for, maybe there should be, because it's a little bit like the wild, wild west out there. If you have so many funds on chain, should you be required to get a smart contract audit? To me, that sounds like, a smart thing to do, but there is no like legal requirement for you to do as such. So yeah.
Yeah, and also one thing to note is that you are on your own in this space, meaning that the audit firm that you engage has no accountability. So, if there's a hack, it's on you. So which is why it's really important to, really wisely pick your auditor. Yeah, that's.
Something too.
We are working though on a insurance solution. So we're working with some insurance providers, whereas if you get a smart contract audit, then we can work with the provider and actually give you a discounted rate for your cybersecurity insurance.
Good. All right, last question.
The smart contract issue of buggy code. Bugs have existed in code from day one. The hack you gave an example, I was able to do back in the 90s on normal code. We have things like Copilot, and you're a good comment about quality code, learning engines. But wouldn't it be better if those learning engines actually were able to see like chain analysis? You can show where the hacks are, they can work out what contracts have done and improve. So in 2 to 3 years' time, will your jobs be irrelevant?
Who wants that?
Who wants that one?
I would say I believe that we always need that human element, and so far there isn't any way to facilitate really thorough manual analysis. For example, whoever's in charge of kicking out the plug if ChatGPT goes rogue, I hope it's not another AI that's doing that. I hope they've employed a human for that. So really, you type into ChatGPT, what happened in the Euler finance hack? It will reply, nothing's happened, because the language model isn't using the most up-to-date information. So we have to be at the cutting edge, leading edge of every hack that happens, every exploit. That's why we're trailing through these bug bounties and keeping the most sort of up-to-date information. And unfortunately, the time that it takes to build that information into these larger language models, it's too slow to sort of combat human elements.
I would say no, our jobs will still be relevant because artificial intelligence doesn't have any concept of like context. You get so many protocols which have all these niche little functionalities. So you kind of need that human intervention to be able to find these edge cases. I think if anything, we as researchers will probably work alongside AI very closely. And it will just be a question of the researchers who use AI versus the researchers who don't, kind of thing.
Yeah, and there was a bit of FUD recently about ChatGPT being able to hack into a smart contract, and I saw lots of Twitter posts about it and people panicking. But it's actually, yes, it can come up with a way to hack for a very simple contract, but for more complex contracts, it just comes up with gibberish, and it's actually a bit of a joke within the InfoSec community. So we're not there yet at all. Yeah.
All right, Graham, last word.
I was just going to round it out to say that I can't see how any of the products that we develop would ever put this team out of work. The products we look at is about looking at the data that's on chain and enriching that data with data from off chain. And we employ a lot of people to make that happen. These guys aren't going to be out of a job because of us.
That's great. Thank you. And thanks again to all our guests tonight. Graham from Chainalysis, Chris and Jock from Hashlock, and Lolo from Omniscia. That was in reverse order. How good was that? Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Networking continues until 8 o'clock. We're pretty much right on time. We have been, because the pizzas came early tonight. So we've been on time all night, thanks to the pizza delivery being early. And for that, we're grateful. We're rocking on here till about 8 o'clock. And then some of you who are really keen might rock on to further post-drinkies, depending on the level of appetite. But I think right here while we're in the room, there's a lot of appetite for further discussion. I can see Ray certainly is itching to ask more questions. I know his cogs are whirring, and others too. So I hope that's been as stimulating as it has for me, and we'll see you again to talk about stable coins and other such goodness in 1 month's time. Thanks everyone, and good night.